Hello there. Last weekend I had the pleasure of going to Stockholm to see Bruce Springsteen in concert with the E Street Band at the Friends Arena. There was 60,000 of us there, and because there was a weather warning earlier in the day, the decision was taken to close the roof, which in effect made it into an indoor gig with 60,000 people there. I wasn't too sure what to expect. I've seen Springsteen quite a few times. I saw him a few weeks ago at Sunderland, where the weather was biblically bad, and Springsteen ended up playing in his vest by taking my shirt and tie and waistcoat off and going down the front and dancing, and ended up with flu and had to cancel some gigs. So having this one indoors was a big tick box. Wasn't sure what the crowd were going to be like. Had never been to a gig in Scandinavia before. But he had a bit previous there. He's I think the longest ever gig he's played was actually in Sweden a few years ago, over 4 hours. So there's obviously some sort of affinity there. Crowd were fantastic pre-gig. We were right down in the pit, so we had some cracking vantage points. And he came on pretty much bang on time, about 8:05. The interesting thing about Springsteen is when he comes on, he is famous for a couple of things. Well, three things really. One's about, generally speaking, the length of his shows, which are about 3 hours, give or take, normally. The second one is that he adapts his set list on a regular basis, depending on a number of factors that really only he knows. And the third thing he does is he tends to start his gigs with a different song, not every night, but when he feels as if he wants to take the gig in a certain direction, he'll sometimes just come on and start a gig with something else. For this one, it was quite different. So he came on with the full band and they played a song called Seeds. If you don't know Seeds, it's not one of Springsteen's better known tracks, and I'm not entirely sure it's actually on any of his studio albums. But it's a song about basically the downtrodden in America. It's a song about money, about oil, about I guess about favouritism and all the things that Springsteen rails against. And it's a very strong, powerful song. It's got a big band feel to it. It's got some blistering guitar solos, and it's kind of quite a deep tune. And it did kind of set the tone for the night. So I'll come on to the fun stuff later on. But there was a bit of a thread around the night where at least three or four songs he played had that connection back to things that weren't quite right at the moment in America. And obviously some of that's came off the back of what's happened with Biden and Trump and, Springsteen being a big Democrat and all that kind of stuff. So Seeds kind of set the tone with that, and he also played a song called Long Walk Home later. And Long Walk Home is another song that he actually called out. He says, "This is a song for my country." And again, kind of quite emotional about how all that's came about and how he sees the future changing. So he played that. He played Youngstown, which again is a big story from the Ghost of Tom Joad, which is about an old steel town in America that is no more. And he played Atlantic City, which I think is one of his sort of more famous tunes, which again was all about what happened at the time with Atlantic City. And, a lot of that is sort of based around his area where he came from, New Jersey. So there's a bit of that thread running through, which was about, things aren't great over there just now, real worry about what might happen post-election, and then sort of more general about, how people are treating each other and, world affairs and stuff like that. That was all fine. It was all kind of, well received. In between, he played his songs. He played 31 songs. 31 songs. He had some fun stuff. He played a song called Waiting on a Sunny Day. That again, he doesn't play that often. He starts playing that way on the guitar. He's playing the first verse or so, and his sidekick, Miami Steve, shouts over to him to remind him that there's a second verse before the chorus comes in. So he looks at him, half forgets to sing the second verse, then goes in to the chorus, and he's playing the guitar chords from the second verse. And he looks at Steve and just takes the guitar off and says "fuck it" and throws the guitar away. It goes away down the front and starts chatting to all the guys down the front and stuff. So there was a lovely kind of looseness to what he does, and that's very much how these gigs work. So the band couldn't be tighter, but the band are also fairly loose. Springsteen changes things quite a lot. He is famous again for doing what are called audibles, where he'll just change the set list in the middle and the band are expected to go along. And he did 2 or 3 audibles tonight. Probably the most obvious one was a little bit later on when he was in the sort of home run of his set. He started playing Wrecking Ball, which again is one of his sort of famous songs. Playing it himself on guitar, maybe 10, 15 seconds into sort of strumming the guitar away, he stopped and said, nah, I'm going to do something different. And turned around, shouted an audible out, and then the band kicked in and played I'm on Fire, which I haven't seen him play for a long time from his Born in the USA period. It was quite near the end of the set as well, so don't know why that came about, but it landed lovely, and the crowd again, big Born in the USA crowd, I think. They seemed to really appreciate that, which was lovely. So an amazing gig, a fantastic crowd, sweating because it was indoors, because they put the roof over. It became a lot hotter than it would have been, I guess, if we'd had an outdoor gig. Didn't matter. So he finished the gig, he did his run, comes back on and plays his encores, starting with Born in the USA and then rattling through a few. I mean, the encore itself lasted 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. And at the very end, when he's having an absolute killer night, he tends to play a couple of fun songs, the main one being Twist and Shout, the old song that the Beatles covered in the 60s. Sure enough, he finishes the main encores and kicks in after 10th Avenue Freeze Out straight into Twist and Shout, which has got a whole bunch of build-ups, stops, false endings, the whole band down the front of the stage. I think there's 17-piece band now, so other than the drummer and the keyboard pianists, everyone else was down the front playing what they played, which was the horn section, the backing singers, the percussionist, and of course the Core E Street Band themselves, who has to be said were absolutely outstanding. He stops, he then looks at the crowd and has a whole push and pull debate with the crowd about it's time to go home, you can't outlist the E Street Band will be here forever. Steve comes over, they have a whole debate about it. The crowd start to call and response, kicks back in again, away it goes again, does that another couple of times and then he's off. A couple of things to finish. The E Street Band themselves are unbelievably amazing. Even if you weren't a particular fan of Springsteen or his music, you would go and see them live just to see the quality of the band. Not only the rhythm section, which is sort of famous in musical terms, but obviously in the last 30 or 40 years, he's had the benefit of having Miami Steve Van Dance, on guitar, and also Niels Lofgren. Now, bearing in mind that the only two bands I think Lofgren's really ever played with are the E Street Band and Crazy Horse. To have him in the band, playing rhythm guitar for most of it, but occasionally getting let off the leash to do some stuff. So he did. His two sort of famous solos, if you want, are Because the Night, which is the song that Patti Smith and Springsteen kind of co-wrote, where he does this kind of blustering guitar solo as he's pivoting. He sort of spins round as he's doing it. But tonight when he played Youngstown has a sort of guitar solo in the album track, and it's very good. But this one was played by Lofgren, with Springsteen and Van Zandt just at the side, basically allowing Lofgren his place on the stage, and he absolutely killed it, like a proper standing ovation just for the solo at the end of the song, which doesn't happen that often, I guess. A couple other things just to finish off. It a couple of very sort of sad parts to the gig tonight. He talked halfway through about Last Man Standing was a song about his friend from his original band, the Castiles, passing away recently, and leaving him as the only guy from that band left, and telling some backstories connected to that. And it was interesting. So he played that, and he played Racing in the Street, and he played Backstreets all about the same time. And the Racing Street, and particular Backstreets, have got that real thread about friendship, lost times, us against the world, camaraderie, all the things that you would kind of imagine these Springsteen songs to be. And he was quite melancholy about it all. He then kicked into the end of the gig when all the sing along stuff and his hits and Born on Shed, Thunder Roads, Dancing in the Dark, all the things you'd expect him to do. But when they finished Twist and Shout, the band all left with Springsteen sort of shaking their hands or cuddling them all for going off one at a time, finishing with Jake Clemens, who is Clarence Clemens' nephew. But Springsteen stayed on, and he played a song called I See You in My Dreams, which is from his most recent solo album, Letter to You. And it's a beautiful song, and it probably works even better live, where because it's just him and his guitar and his harmonica, everything that he's saying and all the feeling that he's putting into it, it's crystal clear. And also, the crowd do sing along, but the sing alongs are kind of almost like a wake type thing. It's not a sort of big shouty sing along thing. It's quite silent and gentle, which I think just kind of added to the ambience of it all. So yeah, so 3 hours, 15 minutes, finished at 20 past 11, I think, 31 songs, and he finished by saying, we love you, the E Street Band love you, and we'll be back to see you real soon. And my gut feel is that he probably will come back, all things being equal. And if he does, if he's going to go over and play in Sweden again, I'm already thinking that's something that I'm going to be doing. And I'll get the diary sorted, and we'll get some fun. And if you get the chance to see him, particularly in places maybe that you haven't seen him before, I would actively encourage you to do that. You don't know what you're missing. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll get you some more gig reviews soon. For now, we'll catch up with you soon. All the best now. Stay safe.